Let's double check, but I believe we're hosting. It says we're hosting. Let's double check. I'm gonna make sure. There goes AJ already. Oh, you know what would help if I refresh the page? Yeah, there it goes. Okay, we are officially streaming.
We are officially live, are we?
Yes, we're it's about as official gets.
Alrighty.
There we go. It says we're live. So hello everyone. Welcome to TooGeekyToCare, the podcast where we are here being geeky. And I am Bajozutsu. My real name AJ, and welcome. Again, I just introduced myself, and here are the panelists. Introduce yourselves.
Hello, once again, this is Tark201. Thank you.
Gothing21129, or Goth.
And I am Bushido X Wolf, sometimes just called Wolf, and sometimes just Brandon.
Okay, so today the topic is a very exciting topic because I have a lot to share about in this topic. It's actually one of my favorite things of my life. But since the genre itself is so broad, we have chopped it down into one specific medium of the genre. That genre being anime movies. Now, when all of us here or mention of anime movies, what do we think of? What's the first thing that pops into your mind, guys?
Well, for me personally, the first thing that pops into my mind, well, of course, would be the Studio Ghibli ones. But other than that, I like to think about, well, from the ones that I've seen, I guess it goes back to the ones that you've seen and the ones that, connect with us or the ones that we like the most. So besides the Studio Ghibli ones, the anime films that I used to watch were Ghost in the Shell and Akira and Ninja Scroll, and so it just reminds me of that. But just hearing the word anime film, I usually just think of a motion picture. Instead of actors, we have the animation style of Japanese cartoons, and it's being used as its form of narrative, and that's what comes into my mind.
Okay, anyone else? What do you guys think?
I mean, personally, I always think of just instead of just a movie that's just part of a story to a series or something like that, like the Naruto movies. I think of more like a film that's on its own. It is its own entity that does its own thing. That is its own story, separate from series and things like that. That's what I tend to think of when I think of like a film. It's just its own isolated thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially like in my experience so far. A lot of them that I've recently watched were they had like a really good meaning to them. So all the ones that I've watched so far really like say something, you know.
Okay, see, myself, if I talk about myself, I watch a lot of anime, so it's not just anime itself, like just episodical series. I watch the movies itself, and this is where we're gonna start touching on. To you guys, what do you guys think was the first anime movie you guys seen? If you guys can think that far, I know I can, because I will share my experience first, so I'll give you guys time to think of it. But my very first anime, in general, I was 4 years old, and if you guys go back and watch the very first episode of the podcast, which was our first games, right? Or the games we are most attributed to, like, or what we're most comfortable with. If you guys remember, my first game was Street Fighter, right? Now, in 1993, there was this anime movie that came out Street Fighter, the animated movie. Oh, oh, oh. In '94, my dad bought me it, knowing how much I enjoyed the Street Fighter animated movie. And bam, Street Fighter, the animated movie. Loved it. Loved it. It's okay. It's okay. Loved it. Loved it. It was like, wow, look at this. It's actually Ryu and it's actually Ken fighting Bison. Oh, look, Bison's using mind control on Guile. Oh, look, Chun-Li and Vega are fighting in Chun-Li's apartment. Like, that was like, I was just so excited watching all of that, knowing that I'm not pressing buttons to watch all these action scenes. So that was a huge plus, and I loved that movie. Even till today, I can watch that movie today, and I know that that movie still hits the nostalgia button, and it's just like, oh man, I love this movie so much. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite animated movies in general because it's well made. It touches upon the story of Street Fighter in a way that, you know, if you play Street Fighter, you have to beat every character's you have to beat the game with every character to know more of their story. And in the animated movie, it touches upon every character and like what they really are, why they're fighting, why they do what they do. Granted, the game is heavily focused on 4 characters, which is Ryu, Ken, Guile, and Chun-Li. As well, you know, you have your antagonist, which is Bison. But I loved that movie, and I thought it was very, very well made, even for its time being. And that was actually the anime that introduced me into anime itself. So I attribute the animated movie of Street Fighter to me seeking out more stuff like that. Because later on, I got introduced to Dragon Ball. And then from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z, which is like... So, come on. It's over 9,000, guys. Just saying.
Oh gosh.
But that is the first animated movie that I remember seeing, and still till today it's one of my favorites.
The reason why I am laughing is because, believe it or not, that was also my very first anime film that I saw.
That's hilarious.
Basically, you and I got the same story almost, where I was young and I did play the video games, of course, and then that was the first film that I saw, the first anime film that I saw. And it was also the first one that scared me too, because that scene where Chun-Li and Vega were fighting in the room, Chun-Li was getting cut a lot and there was a lot of blood. First off, when it comes to animation films, you know, being a child raised here in America and all that other stuff, the animation films that we get exposed to were usually, you know, the Walt Disney Studio stuff, right? And so they were always kind of friendly and they were a little bit childish, and they were, even though they were like very well made and very well animated for its time, and they covered so many like themes that are so relevant to this day, it wasn't really, how do I say it? It didn't get too dark, and it didn't cover that many like adult themes and all that other stuff, that unlike the Disney films that we're having today. And so watching that anime film, the Street Fighter one, the one where there is blood and everything, I initially was a little scared because it was different. This was my first exposure to something, a cartoon. Like in my mind, it was a cartoon that was very, very different. And so just like you, AJ, that was also the starting point for me and all that. So that was the first one. And then for me, I honestly thought it was a cartoon that was made here in the Western world. I did not know it was a Japanese thing until my cousin told me. He was the one that introduced it to me. And then he introduced me to more of them, like, you know, I watched the Fatal Fury one. the Fatal Fury anime film, and then after that, that's when I started to get into the Studio Ghibli stuff, and then Akira. So basically, it all started off with the Street Fighter one, just like you, and that was my first exposure to Japanese cartoons and what kind of it's going to be very different. There's going to be nudity. It can have nudity, it can have violence, it can have harsh language and all that, and it can actually be more adultish than you think and all that. Like it gives off that feeling that just because it's a cartoon, it's not always targeted towards children, And so it was like that, and it introduced me to what was going on, and I really liked it. But to answer your question, that was also my first anime film that I watched.
Yeah. I mean, it was so popular too back then when it first released, because again, Street Fighter itself was really popular at the time. So they released something that was like touching upon the Street Fighter universe, and it was based off the story. And anime back then as well was actually really getting popular over here in the Western area. So, like, oh, an anime of Street Fighter. Oh, let me check this out. So that was the whole buzz around that. And because even the Street Fighter live action film, believe it or not, was pretty successful, although it being really, really weird. That's just me actually being nice and saying it was weird. So what about Brandon over here? What about you?
Let me think. I don't remember my first animated film. Let me think. What was one that I've seen? It was the earliest one that I could think of. Geez, I don't know. It's a pretty good chance it was one of the Studio Ghibli ones. As far back as I can remember, the one that I saw in theaters too, that most people have not seen, especially in theaters, was the Digimon movie. I saw that one in theaters when I was a little kid.
What is Digimon? What is Digimon?
He was a huge Digimon fan. It's okay.
What is Digimon?
Yeah. We all have our own taste.
I saw it when I was a little kid. It was like right around the time of my birthday too. So Mom was like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "I want to see this in theaters." So that's what we did. I really enjoyed it though.
That's awesome.
While Brandon was watching the Digimon movie, I was in another theater watching the Pokemon movie with like 100 people, and Brandon's there with like 10.
Digimon totally different times, but
I know, I'm joking.
That theater was actually full when I was a kid.
I remember going to the cinemas to watch it, and it was full. I did not like that movie that much, but I did like the soundtrack in the movie for some odd reason.
The movie itself, I felt like could have been just specials instead of a film. But I think they were just like, nah, let's throw it together, make a film, see if we can make a couple extra bucks.
What about you, Lucen? What's your earliest memory of an anime movie that you saw?
Well, besides watching that Pokemon movie, really, I did one of my first ones were, because I'm a little more new to animated movies, or anime movies, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, I'm a little more like new to it, so the first one that I can say that I've actually watched on my own was The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, and I personally really liked that one. It had like so many different emotions throughout the whole anime, in my opinion, and it was just something that I really did enjoy, and something that I was just like, okay, this is really great. I would love to see more like films like this, because it's very intriguing. It does feel like you're watching an anime like just series, but it's like so much deeper than that to me. When it comes to the films, because it's a movie basically, they have to go and dive a little bit deeper in a shorter amount of time, which can leave you with a lot of different emotions at the end of the movie. So I really do appreciate those anime films because of that. I love having all those emotions at once. But I really do enjoy it. Yeah, so that's definitely one of my first.
All right, so now we're gonna move into a different topic, and I'm gonna start with Goth Angel over here,
Oh,
since
God.
we technically made her like binge
Oh, I
a whole
binged.
we made her binge a whole bunch of anime movies, and I've been discussing it with her, like, because I love hearing people's perception of it, or whatever you guys want to say it. Um, I love hearing what people think of these movies because
Yeah.
I am huge on them. So the question is, out of the movies that you've seen, which one was your favorite?
You know what's funny? Like, it's really hard to compare all of them because, okay, look, if I'm gonna go for a light, fun one that I really enjoyed. I personally did enjoy The Cat Returns, and I personally did enjoy Whisper of the Heart because those, like, they appeal to me because they're so cutesy and like fun, you know. Like that's just me, you know. Like I love those kinds of movies. I love those kinds of things in general, like in animes, movies, and video games. I adore cute things, and they have a bunch of cats in them. Why not? You know. So that really did appeal to me. But if I'm going to talk on a serious level, I definitely think one of the ones that I really did enjoy and was very emotional for me was Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
It really did get to me. I'm not gonna lie. Like I cried like a baby.
No, that film was
It was
emotional.
extremely deep.
It
That
was.
See,
film
see.
it got
So
you right there.
the thing was that I told Goth about it. I was like, dude, Grave of the Fireflies. If you watch it, I guarantee you will shed tears.
Yeah, that's about the only thing he told me about it, by the way. He said, "You're gonna cry." And I was like, I probably will, because I'm a very emotional person, so I feel like if you say I'm gonna cry, AJ, I probably will cry a lot. And I can guarantee that I did multiple times. But
And
I loved it, though. It was a very deep, meaningful movie, and I enjoy movies that are like that, that get in there and make you think, you know?
oh
It's,
yes,
it's a
it
good thing.
definitely makes you think.
It's a
All
good
right, so what about you, Brandon?
Um, hmm. This is a really tough one. I'd probably say I really, really enjoyed Summer Wars.
Wow. Okay.
Um, Aside from that, let me think. What was another good one? And Princess Mononoke for a more serious one.
Princess
That's
Mononoke.
a good one too. Yes. Oh, I'm just. It's all bubbling inside of me right now.
AJ's getting all the memories.
Oh my gosh.
He's like,
What about
oh,
you,
yeah,
Tark?
this is good too. This is good.
My favorite probably has to be Sailor Moon R.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding. Oh
I
my
was gonna say
gosh.
that's not something I
I was
expected
like,
from
what a
you.
curveball.
Right?
No, I'm
That's
just
why I
kidding.
was like,
But
really?
I'm
Huh?
kidding. I'm kidding.
Shock.
But I did see a few of the Sailor Moon actual, like, the films,
Yeah.
and those direct-to-video films. I did see a few of those. But in all legitness, though, my favorite would be, if Spirited Away doesn't count because that is so typical and all that stuff, I would say Castle in the Sky is one that I really, really like. And that one really reminds me a little bit of myself and how it deals a lot with, individuality, and it deals a lot with, like being connected to other people, because the girl, I don't want to tell you which character for the sake of, spoilers and all that stuff, like she has that issue of, who she is and where she belongs in the world, but little that she know, or she does know, that she is connected to so many things, but she doesn't feel like she should, and she kind of doesn't really want to. And that kind of really reminds me of me in a way. And it's so funny how this is just a children's story. This is a
Yeah.
children's story, and it connects to so many different people, and it still connects to me now. I still find myself, if I watch it, I'll be like, oh wow, I'm still loving it, as if, I was a child watching this film all over again. And it just goes to show you how something as simple like this can actually give you that same feeling and that same experience as if you were to watch another animation film, or better yet, a live action film. It's still the same thing.
Yes,
And
exactly.
so I just love how when it comes to anime films, it's not always like that fantasy, that crazy, yeah, all this power and all that. It's not something like that. It can be very serious. It can be
Yeah.
very, very meaningful and very deep, and it can mean so many things to so many different people. And so it was very heartwarming to see something like that where you're watching a cartoon, it's are targeted towards children, but at the same time it reaches out to a much older audience as well to kind of give off a story, and I really have a huge thing for that.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like I feel like with like anime films that are like that, personally, I feel like even the things that we don't pick up as a child, when we watch it later on, we pick it up as adults, and we're
Yeah.
like, oh, now I know what this film was really about. You know, like
That's
you
kind
start
of how
to
I
think
felt
more.
with
You're just
Princess
like, man,
Mononoke.
no wonder I
Yeah.
like this film is extremely deep. I didn't even know that I liked it for that, but I do.
I think a lot of us kids, we did that. Like when we were watching anime films or anime in general, we liked it for, the cartoony stuff. We liked it
Yeah,
for the characters.
it
We
was
liked it
like
for the artwork. And
entertaining.
it was, yeah, we liked it for, it just looked great. And then when
I
we
mean,
watched
like,
it as adults, it's
I
like,
say a
oh,
few kids do kind of pick up on some of it, but it's like
yeah.
very, it's in small amounts.
Yeah.
Where
Mm,
like if someone died, they understood, okay, that person just died. That's really sad. Like you can pick up on small things like that, but sometimes you don't know the true meanings of why did this happen, why did that happen until you get older and you experience enough stuff. So, and also I think personally speaking, it also depends on what you experience in life that identifies with you. You know, when you watch
mm.
these movies, sometimes certain animes they hit a little too close to home because you're like, oh, I've
Yes.
been through there, and like, oh, that hits me hard. Like that's why I feel like some of them do make you feel these emotions. These like some of them that are like they make you cry or whatever, some things like that. I feel like they do because they get you right where they knew they were gonna get you, right there in the feels,
Right in the
pretty much.
feels.
Right in the feels.
Yeah. So, with me, like I can just say so many of them. You know, if it's action, I always recommend the usual Fist of the North Star or Ninja Scroll. If it's something that's I know a girl would enjoy, like something cutesy, it's always Ponyo, or
I really like Pony too.
yeah,
Ponyo.
Ponyo, or Spirited Away, even though Spirited Away is very deep as well.
Oh,
Has
that's
this,
fine.
It's very dark
um,
in a lot of
yeah,
places too.
yeah,
Oh,
it is, but
yes.
it's a deep movie. Or when it comes to movies, for me, I've always been a fan of everyone. When it comes to Studio Ghibli, it's always Miyazaki movies. Everyone loves Miyazaki because his work. I will agree, his work is amazing, but he's not my favorite director from Studio Ghibli.
Hmm.
I do appreciate his work. I thought his work is very, 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 very well made. But it was always Isao Hayamada and his movies. They always get to me. And Goth touched upon one of them, which was Grave of the Fireflies.
Yes.
That's my go-to movie. Um, so much. There's so much in depth with that movie, and just the storyline itself. It's very haunting, and it's very surreal because you see the struggles of the people past war, and and even during the war. So it's very it hits it's very deep.
Yeah, me personally,
And
when I was watching it, actually, like I feel like that's a movie that even if you don't understand what happened over there, it brings you into it, you know? Like it shows you. You don't need to know history to watch the movie. Like it basically throws you into what was happening at the time, and so you get this more deeper understanding of the situation itself.
but it's just, again, it hits home. I remember watching it very young, at a very young age. I think I was like 7 years old, and again, it's a very deep movie. Of course, you're not gonna understand everything at that young of an age,
Yeah.
because again, there's so much into the movie that not, especially kids, won't understand. You know, when I later on saw it, I think I was like 17, and I was already going through my depressing stages of my life.
Yeah.
And that movie just like, it shattered me, because it was like, man, you know, here I am going through these stages, but there's people so desperate that want to live. And even in an anime, like, that's why, like, when you go into animes, it's not just, you know, like Tark said, it's not about entertaining, you know, it's not about the action scenes, or it's not Goku powering up and going over 9,000, you know. It's also it's also it's also one of the it's the themes of like reality, because a lot of anime movies touch upon like the emotions of people, the situations that people are in. And I'm also going to explain another movie that I think is very well made, that Hayamada also made, but Grave of the Fireflies is by far my favorite anime movie. But I also like to touch upon another one which I think is very underrated, and that's Only Yesterday. And I recommend that to Goth. She wants to see it, because I'm always like, this one's really good, and it's I think all of us should watch it,
Oh,
because it's something that that after you watch it, you start reflecting upon yourself, because the story is about a girl. She goes back to her homeland, right? And while she's going back to her homeland, she starts reminiscing about everything in her past. So, like, just think about it. She goes back to her homeland. She starts reminiscing about everything in the past, all her fun moments, all her like her crushes, her you know, the days hanging out with her friends, you know, all the dumb stuff she does in her life, etc., etc. And here she is going back home, wondering if what she's doing now is what is true to what she wanted to do as her younger self.
I get you.
Just something
I feel like something like that is like something that we could all relate to too, you know?
it's something that everyone can relate to, especially an
Yes.
adult, because that movie was very successful the year it came out in Japan, and that's the one movie that didn't get subbed or dubbed until recently. The dubbing came out just recently. I'm talking about like 2013 or 2014, and the movie was released in 1991. So, like, I saw the dubbing just recently. I saw it like 2015, last year, I think. If it wasn't last year, it was definitely this year. Because the dubbing has Dev Patel and Daisy Ridley, and I recommend it to everyone. It's really good
really?
movie.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really good. I think it's one of those things that it's one of the movies I definitely enjoyed. And again, Hayamada is one of my favorite Studio Ghibli directors, and a lot of his films, they are very in depth, with touching the relations of the adults. His movies are more adult oriented than opposed to, like, you know, Miyazaki, who I'm not gonna say Spirited Away wasn't adult oriented, because it was, again, as Brandon had pointed out, it was very dark. It was very
I mean, it dealt with like humans being turned into pigs, because that's the kind of animals that these spirits think they are and stuff like that, and all these different spirits that do
That's
terrible
exactly.
things.
There's a lot of underlining things that they hinted at,
There's a
and I
lot
think
of,
that
like,
when you're a kid, if you tried to watch that, you wouldn't understand it.
a lot of these a lot of the demons and stuff like that, and the spirits they show in that film are very like dark. They're very evil, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just a lot of movies that are very, very well made. But now we're gonna touch on another subject. These, since we're on Twitch, you know, a game-oriented website, and we already touched upon Street Fighter. But is there any other animes that you guys have seen?
That spawn.
That's
from
based on
games,
video games?
or that go into video games or made from video games. One
Yes.
or the other, right?
I have seen, besides the Street Fighter one, I did see the Fatal Fury one, and I did see the Tekken anime. Yeah, there is a
Yeah.
Tekken one. I did see
There is a
that
Tekken
one.
anime. Yes,
Yes,
there
and I
is.
have seen it, and I actually liked it. It was actually...
There's also
But
BlazBlue.
actually, I kind of have a question
Oh,
about
yeah,
that. Like,
you're
what
right.
are the fighting animes even like?
Story wise,
Yeah.
Hold on.
Let
Let me imitate one, at least one.
Mortal Kombat
Oh,
had
boy.
live action adaptations. They did not have animated ones, as far as I know. Because someone brought that up in the chat.
Nice.
There was only live action ones, as far as I know. When I looked into it.
There is Devil May Cry. Yes,
There is
Devil May
Devil
Cry is
May
another
That
one.
is the one. I just realized because I've never played that game myself, but I know
everyone-
someone who
You brought
does.
up the Pokemon ones, all the Pokemon movies.
Oh yeah, Pokemon.
There's
Yes.
also
The Pokemon was originally
gosh.
an anime, so.
Final Fantasy.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. I almost forgot.
There's two
Yeah,
films.
Final
There's two of
Fantasy.
them. The
Spirits
Advent
Within.
Children and Spirits Within.
I saw one of them and I can't remember which one it is, but it was good. So, hey.
I loved Advent Children because Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. And so when I saw Advent Children, it stayed true to the story, and it actually added more
That's
depth
good.
into the story. So I was like, wow, this is a...
See, I enjoy ones that, like, they add on, so you understand a little more.
And there's a whole bunch of other ones too. I'm trying to, you know, get blank. I'm drawing blanks, which is the sad part. But you
Oh.
know,
It happens. We
Yeah,
had a lot
like
to
To
think
go
about.
back to what Luna was saying too, that Mortal Kombat did have an animated adaptation, but it was not a film. It was just
It was a
like
series?
an animated series.
Yeah.
It was not the greatest one, but it was supposed to be like Defenders of the Realm. If you look at the animation style, it was, I don't even know how, but it looked like it was supposed to be marketed towards kids, which is the
Really?
worst thing you could possibly do for Mortal Kombat. But anyways, that's
Mortal Kombat for kids. What?
it didn't look all that great.
doesn't.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah.
I'm drawing blanks. I know there's more.
Well, there's probably a lot more that we just can't remember.
Oh, I
We
don't
just
know.
can't remember. I see, like movies. There's because if we go into like just anime itself that's put into like video games, then that's the whole different story. I could just come up with like, you know,
No,
JoJo's
yeah,
Bizarre
I'm going-
Adventure.
I'm going to talk about the other way around. Video games that were adapted into films,
Animated,
like
animated
films.
movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking about animated films, not just films, because otherwise we'd be here forever.
Yes, do that.
I mean, we could talk about like the Dragon Balls. You know, they like Resurrection F basically had its own video game, which was Battle of the Gods.
It's kind of a back and forth sort of thing, but yeah.
You know.
I think BlazBlue might have been a series. I'll double check, but
I think
it
I
was a
think
movie.
so as well. Basically, BlazBlue was an anime fighting game, just like, you know, what is that other
Guilty
one?
Gear.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I love Guilty Gear. This. We can check. We're all like checking right now.
I'm
But
not
the thing
sure.
is-
yeah,
Don't-
it
yeah,
seems
so-
BlazBlue had a
both
movie
things
and I
check.
think a series as well.
Yeah, it did. It had a series and it did have a film, which is interesting because when it comes to, you know, anime, a lot of people like to think about the shows. You know what I mean? Like when they think of anime, they think of, you know, Dragon Ball Z or Dragon
Yeah,
Ball the show or
maybe.
Naruto the show or, you know, Cowboy Bebop the show and all that other stuff. But it's so interesting to note how all these different shows at one point, if not already, they will or they already have gotten their own film adaptation of, you know, the animated works that is an actual animated film.
Okay. So okay, now we can ask a new question. Which animated movie based off an anime show made a big impression on you guys? If there is
Oh
any.
man, that's interesting because usually when I think of animated anime movie based off of an anime show, I'm gonna be honest, not a lot of them were really that good. I'm just gonna flat out tell you.
Okay.
I mean, the only ones that I thought were pretty good, but nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody likes it because of
Oh,
how it ended.
I'm waiting.
Was
Oh.
Evangelion,
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Never
and
saw that.
yeah. So with Evangelion, everybody was like, "Yeah, I enjoyed the series. It was pretty dark. It was good." And then the ending happened, and I'm just like, "What was?"
The ending
I don't
happened.
like. My problem with the ending was that the main character was himself. That was my problem. That he was himself. I would have loved it if it was anyone else, but because it was that person going through what was happening, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wait for this to end. I want to see how this story works out. I don't like him as a person. I don't like him as a character, but I'm just gonna sit here and ride the rest of this story out and see what happens. But it was so funny. Everybody was just like, oh, I hated the ending. It was so confusing. So I was just like, I don't know. The ending itself was okay. I think what ruined it for me was the character that was going through the story.
What about you, Lucen?
Honestly, I don't really think I've seen any actual ones that were like made into movies or something like that.
Wait,
There's probably a few, but I can't think of it on top of my head. I've
There
watched
is
most anime.
one. There is actually an anime movie series that is based off of an anime show that I actually do like, actually. I take it back.
Oh, which one?
The
Oh, shoot.
Pokemon films.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
remember
yeah,
that?
I can agree with that. They were good.
The
But it
films,
makes you but it makes you wonder, out of all the anime that is out there, like I enjoyed the first Pokemon movie more than than what is that? The Cowboy Bebop anime film. I did.
I didn't like the Cowboy, and I'm a
See?
huge Bebop
See,
fan.
there you go.
And
So there you
it
go.
was a
So
letdown to the anime series itself.
So it
And
makes you wonder how come if we have an anime series like but even though the Pokemon movie we like more than the Cowboy Bebop movie, I'm pretty sure majority of us like the Cowboy Bebop anime more than the general Pokemon anime, right?
of course,
by the way, have
See?
you seen the recent changes to like the Pokemon anime now? Like how it is
No,
now?
I know. I stopped watching
It
after.
is now the Poke. I feel like I could take the Pokemon anime seriously now. Now I can
Oh,
call
really?
it an anime. It's not just like a terrible adaptation of the game made into a goofy comedy. Now it feels like a cartoon with these creatures in it. Like Ash doesn't, because before, like throughout the series, Ash kept changing like visually, and it felt like he was getting older. And like his voice would get deeper and all that kind of stuff in both versions and everything. And it seemed like he was getting older, but he's still 10 years old. So it was very confusing for a lot of the viewers. Now he's very, very cartoony. He's much more animated of a character. So he feels like you're watching an anime. And like he actually responds to things happening. It's not just I have to do this, or it's not just like something silly happens and stuff like that. It's more like his life is in danger at some point in time, or he has to respond to a situation, or he's doing things out of curiosity, or he acts like a child. So it's a good change of direction. I want to see how that's going to affect the next couple of films, because they're obviously going to do usually like 2 or 3 films per arc.
For the Pokemon movies, I personally like them because they did. I feel like they got a little more serious. Other than besides the show, because the show's very kiddie-ish. But the movies got a little more serious.
The shows are very kiddie-ish, but they were drawn somewhat seriously, which didn't make any sense. And then the films themselves were drawn. I feel like they were drawn correctly for how serious they were. and
Yeah.
they had like their own sort of story that was
Like
isolated
even
around
the
what
lighting
was
and
happening.
everything, if you've noticed,
Yeah.
the lighting throughout the
My
Like,
favorite
the first
part of
one was super
film.
dark and everything like
Yeah,
that for
they-
sections
My
of
favorite-
it.
it fit the themes of what was happening and everything.
My favorite part of the first Pokemon is when all of the Pokemon were crying, and then my favorite Pokemon cry of them all, Dugong! It was just like, oh, that's so great. He's just,
Dugong's face. No, but
they're all crying. They're all
You
shedding
guys-
one Pokemon tear.
when you guys get a chance, watch the first episode of the newest arc, which was what is it? Sun and Moon is a new game. Watch the new arc. My friend brought it up to me. I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You gotta watch it. It looks sillier, but now it actually makes sense for the story. Like it looks
It's
silly.
just kinda
but silly
funny
stuff happens. Yeah, like
that
every
they
time something
opposite.
happens, you would just go, "Whoa!" And you're just like, "What?" Now he actually makes like classic anime faces where he looks like shocked, he's like, "Ah," and stuff like that. And you feel like
That's
he's
actually
great.
really funny. I would enjoy that actually
Yeah.
because
It
But it
feels, it's more appropriate.
because
I feel like.
to me the further that the Pokemon series went into is the less likely that I liked it, personally speaking.
The thing is,
Because
like,
it was
you would
just too much.
you would have to attract new audience because the audience of when Pokemon first started, it's older audience.
Yeah.
And you have to attract new audience, so of course you're gonna have to work up on new stuff so that they like the new audience could be like, oh look, this is pretty cool, you know. I
Yeah, I
you
agree
know.
with that.
um
They don't want
but-
to just keep the same old audience. They also want to gain new audience as well.
Of course.
They
that's
gotta
true.
change things up, and that's
okay,
I've only
So-
done a good job. But anyway,
so-
I just wanted to point that out.
we okay, so I have many to point out. The first being the Dragon Ball Z movies, you know, Battle of the Gods or Resurrection F. There's those two. Brandon pointed out Evangelion. There's a couple Gundam movies. Another one we missed out, and Tart keeps talking about the live action movie that's coming out soon. Ghost in the Shell.
Oh yes. I forgot about that.
I think the film came out first, then the series, then another film.
No, it was a manga first.
It was a manga first, and
Oh,
then
no,
the
I'm
film, but the
talking about,
film,
like the manga.
the film first came out then.
Yeah, I'm talking
Yes.
about like for animation wise.
Oh, okay. Animation wise, excluding the
I
okay.
feel like everything came from a book. There's no
Of course.
there's no need to mention
Yes,
the book
I can get
because
you there.
everything
was a
is
book.
from a book now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty much
Everything is
started
from a
there.
book. Because books
So-
have good stories, and now people actually care about having good stories. So they're just like, all right, let's just turn this book into something animated. Let's ruin it for all the people who read the book, but let's just adapt it for the people who are too
But
lazy
yes,
to read.
you are true. It was Ghost in the Shell. It was an anime film first, and then then
then
the series came out.
It turned into a series, and they redid the film because the series wasn't quite in line with the movie or the manga. And so they redid the film. I did like the series a lot, and I did like the film based off the series. I thought it was good.
Okay. Then there's the Full Metal Alchemist movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think was based off the animated series, not the Brotherhood version of it or the manga version.
Yep.
I liked both. A lot of people, they're like, "Oh, the first one was awful," but everyone
And,
loved the first one until the second one came out. Then all of a sudden, everyone was a critic, and everyone was like, "Oh, it was terrible. I'm so glad they redid it." It's like, is that why you have a tattoo that's like 7 years old, which is before the second one came out?
And there are plenty more. They're not coming to mind.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely Google them and just be like,
Yeah,
oh, this one.
I just found one that I could think of that I actually watched that was an anime and movie, which was Eden of the East. I don't know if any of you here know it, but
Yes.
I watched both of them and I actually really enjoyed the series and the movie. So that's something that I really thought was like, ooh, spot on there.
Yes, the movies that were off the series are pretty good, stuff like that. I mean, like I said before, there was also like Digimon. What other ones were there? I feel like if I go through my computer, I probably have a catalog somewhere.
Probably. Knowing you.
I had a lot of stuff.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of there's also a Sword Art movie.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, see.
I mean, like, to be honest, though, after the first season, I didn't watch the second one, so...
No, this was in between the first and the second season. So
Okay, so maybe I should
yes.
watch it then.
So and again, there's a lot more, and there, I understand where like Tark came from when like the Cowboy Bebop movie came out. I was very excited because Cowboy Bebop was the bomb.
Yes.
And it was definitely one of those movies that I was like, oh, I have to go watch this. This is what I enjoyed. And when truth be told, I go watch it and I'm just like, why am I watching this? This has absolutely this has none of the charm of what made Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, that is true.
And I guess that's one of the things people don't like when their favorite animes end up making movies. Because I've heard the same thing about a lot of Naruto fans when Naruto started pushing out so many movies. Like they're just like, you can completely skip the movies. There's no reason to watch those.
Like, yeah, I don't, like, because a lot of the times they don't connect, so it's like, you don't need to actually watch it. Like, it's cool if you want to, but you don't have to.
It was the same thing with, like, so Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, all of them that are just like, hey, so our episode numbers are hitting in the several hundreds right now. So we're like, let's start spreading ourselves out a little bit in other directions. We already have books. Because guess where the story came from? The books.
Yeah.
So they were like, how about we cover some other media? Let's go with movies for now. So they went into movies and they were like, all right, one of them did good. Let's do like 8 more and see where that goes.
Oh gosh,
like,
no.
They're just like, let's just squeeze out every dollar we can. Well, we're still here. While we're still here. I mean, we got the writers. They're still chained in the basement. Get them to work.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
so
that's where they go wrong, though, when they get a little ahead of themselves. And they
like,
think,
by the
alright, well, that
way-
was successful. Let's do some more.
Yeah, and they're usually they go, by the way, make sure there's zero disconnect from the story, but we don't want to interrupt the continuity. We want to leave it vague as to what part of the story there is, and what part of the story like this is in between. And in some cases, it's just not possible. Like some of what happens, you're just like, this would literally have to happen between the occurrences of something happening in the story, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because sometimes it can't fit either. It's like,
so it's
there's
just like, it's
there's
a
not
random
enough time
story.
between here and here.
It's a random story that's just kind of floating between the middle of fights, like literally in the middle of fights happening in other series.
Yeah, I think at that point you
So,
have to
like,
chalk it up to anime logic.
I think One Piece, the way they did it was like some of the events that happened in the series, they then just adapted to film. So they changed some of the little bits here and there, and then they just took a major event, like there was like a major war in a city, and they just adapted it to a film.
That's
I was
just
like, that's cool. I don't mind that. I mean, it's something you could watch. You don't have to watch. You've kind of seen some of it, but this is like a just blown up version of it where you really get more detail and stuff like that. It's not messing with the continuity. You know where it is in the story, you know. So they did. I felt like they did an okay job there, but like a lot of those series, they're just like, hey, so we know this is where we can make a good amount of money. Let's try this out and see what happens. Let's put it in theaters and stuff.
I feel like I appreciate I appreciate it more when they are not like that. Like when they have something good and they don't ruin it, you know? Then I'm like, okay, I can appreciate your work because you didn't ruin it by keeping on. It's like, to me, it's just like the same thing with movies or games in general, where you're like, okay, they should have stopped at the first one. It's like sequels sometimes are just not good. Don't do them. Sometimes it ruins the entire story when you continue. That's mostly why I end up not liking like sequels to games or movies or stuff like that, you know. But with games, I feel like it's different because sometimes they need those sequels because it's like something they did horribly wrong in the first one. they make up for in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish that they just did that more with anime, you know? Like if they did something horribly wrong in the first anime, they like completely did something that can like top that to make it better. But sometimes like in my viewpoint of this is it just goes downward. It gets worse and worse and worse. Unfortunately.
No, I mean I know what you're saying, and just like it's the same problem with everything. They want to shelve out so much money. They keep on producing the same stuff over and over and over. So that's definitely an issue. With me, like I don't watch Naruto, so
So it doesn't bother AJ that they do that kind of stuff.
that's number
Yeah, I get you.
5 right now. We're gonna do a count.
I should have a little counter at the top of the screen.
Yes.
Keep clicking it.
So the like for me when it comes to anime movies, I like using the Dragon Ball Z example.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Dragon Ball Z, when you watch the Dragon Ball Z, of course they don't really follow the story, but they do introduce very unique characters in the movies. You know, if any of you guys follow Dragon Ball Z, you guys have probably heard of the characters Cooler and Broly, right?
Okay.
They never made Cooler made an appearance on one episode, but just one episode on canon Dragon Ball Z. Just one, right? And
They I think they might reference Brawly in one of the episodes, but they never actually like show him.
They
or
never
talk
showed
about
him.
him or anything.
Yeah.
I think they might have like offhandedly mentioned him or something. That's about it.
so Broly and Cooler, these are characters that you'd have absolutely no idea. Like Cooler appeared once, you know, when Cooler and Frieza came to Earth, tried to fight Goku, right? Broly never mentioned. I mean, never shown in the series, the anime series, but they're very huge part of the Dragon Ball Z saga, because of the films. They're very popular characters because of the films. Um, the Revenge of Cooler and Broly, the legendary Saiyan. Those movies did so well that they had to be dubbed and brought to the United States because a lot of the American fans wanted to see the films as well, and it did well. They sold a lot of copies of the movies, and you know, um, they were popular. The story of Trunks, the history of Trunks. That's another um, Dragon Ball Z movie that was very popular. Where if you guys know who Trunks is, that's Vegeta's son, but he travels from the future to the past to warn Goku that there's a virus that he contracts that might kill him, and he gives him an antidote to save him. And so, um, you see the history of Trunks, what he suffers in the future. Um, you see Goku dying, you see Vegeta getting killed by the androids. You see like the death of all the Z fighters except for Gohan, who ends up becoming one-armed Gohan, and Gohan becomes Trunks' master.
He becomes
And-
Gohan, the mighty slot machine.
But it's a very unique movie, and it touches upon, you know, Trunks wanting to know who his father was because he had heard so much about his father from Bulma. He wanted to know who Goku was because again he's heard everything about these guys from his mom, from Gohan, and he wants to preserve that, like, they survive in a past where Bulma actually gives them an opportunity to save them. And it's a very unique movie, and it was again very popular in the United States as well as in Japan. So the movies, they are popular. There's a reason why they get made. they get dubbed because they do become popular. Even the Naruto movies, a lot of the Naruto fans want to see these movies, although the majority of them they end up hating. And it's the same with everything else, Ghost in the Shell.
So there's one set of films that I can say, as far as I know, everybody who watched the series and then watched the films love the films. And everybody loves the series. Is Madoka.
Yeah.
Everybody loves all of it. It is so dark but so cute looking. But everyone loves it.
I feel like I heard this name before, and
I know
like
it
I can't.
exactly.
I don't think
I
it's
don't have it.
dubbed.
I don't have.
but
Oh, okay.
Madoka,
I got it.
Madoka Magica.
The series is dubbed. I don't think that the movie's dubbed. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, not yet. The movies aren't dubbed yet.
But the series is dubbed. I've seen it on Netflix before. I've watched some of it, but like in the beginning of the series, it's kind of like
super
it kind of
slow.
drags.
It's super slow.
So
literally,
I
stopped.
couldn't, like, as cute as it is, and I want to get into it. I'm like,
So I watched it for like 3 or 4
don't
episodes. I was like, you know
this.
what? I'll put this off till later. And my friend comes back. He was like, watch it. Yeah, Puella Magi Madoka Magica. There we go. So he was like, just watch the next episode. So I watched the next episode. I was like, all right, I'm putting this down, but not because I was getting bored or not because I'm not interested, but because I can't emotionally handle this right now. So I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna put this over here. I'm gonna come back to this later. But it completely flips the script after a certain number of episodes. I don't like that it takes that long, like to flip the script on you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that build up is almost necessary.
I've seen a lot of series that do that though, where they start off, like they started really slow and cutesy, and then the further you go in, it's like now there's no going back. they give you this like 180 on a show, you're just like, whoa, what is happening right now? Like things get really dark, it turns. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes you wish they would have gotten there quicker. Just so you understood what you were getting yourself into.
Okay, so we're hitting the hour mark. We probably already head in past it. So we're going to touch upon 2 things, right, to conclude this. The first one being Spirited Away. It's very important. It's a very important anime movie for the sole reason that it is the only anime to have won the Academy Award. If you guys
For
don't
best
know
animated picture, you're right. I remember that.
Okay, or if you guys don't know what the hell I'm talking about, it won the Oscar for the best animated movie. It's the only anime movie to have won the Oscar.
Yeah.
It's not the first to be nominated. There are others, but it was the very first one to win it.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a huge importance.
And we recently celebrated its 15-year anniversary, which I'm pretty sure, like all of us, we all had that film be re-released in the cinemas.
Yes.
For everybody. Oh yeah.
And as Tark said, that's exactly as going to say 15 years. So there's a huge importance in that movie, and Goth Angel touched upon it. I touched upon it as well. But again, what are your thoughts on the movie?
Well, I already told you that's my all-time favorite anime film. If that doesn't count, people say, "Oh, that besides that movie."
No, it does.
Yeah, I know, but that is my all-time favorite. But like I said, those people who say that doesn't count, mine would have been Castle in the Sky afterwards. But I really, really loved Spirited Away, and I still do. It's a great film. It has a lot to do because a lot of people, they talk about, what really goes on in it and, the artistic design, and I love the artistic design and the soundtrack. Oh, that soundtrack is very, very good. But there's a lot of things going on in the back as well. Like, it is a coming-of-age story. It's a story about growing up and accepting change, and basically there is a little bit of a story about individuality in that writing as well, in concerns to the character of Haku, the male character. He, even though the main character is Sen Chihiro, and all that,
Yeah.
Haku also plays a pivotal role as well of learning about who you are in this world and what role do you play in concerns with others, because both Haku and Chihiro, they actually needed one another, not on a romantic level, but they
Yeah.
needed one another in order for them to discover who they both are and how to accept their own lives in concerns of being connected with others and accepting change, because both of them were going through major changes with their lives, whether that be literal or physical or anything like that. But they both were used to basically play the vessel of what's like the real backbone of the overarching story. But besides that, I really like that film. It was actually a lot more emotional than I thought it was going to be. I didn't get as emotional as I did with, like, Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, or I didn't get as emotional as I did with Castle in the Sky or anything like that, but it was still
Yeah. You can
emotional
still
on,
feel it
like,
though.
oh yeah, there were still the feels and all that stuff, and it was just really fun to watch. It's one of those films
It
where you could
was,
just sit back
yes.
and watch it and you'll just enjoy it for what it
There's
is, and
so
it's
much
so,
going on. There's so many spirits in the
Yeah.
background and all this crazy
yeah.
stuff going
And
on.
that's actually what I was talking about earlier when I said like films like these, they throw you into it and give you so many different emotions. That's definitely one of the movies who did do that a lot in that movie, because you, from the beginning to the end, you experience different kinds of emotions all the way through. Because there was some playful aspects to the movie, but then there was like, then it was very, very serious, and then it was also very, very dark. So it's like, to successfully portray all those emotions into one movie is definitely something praiseworthy indeed.
I mean, for me, I again, like Tark said and Goth said, there's so many emotions in that movie. It touches upon you feel the joy and the color. You see the colors and you feel joyful.
Mm.
Then you see the very angst, depressing feels. Shh, John, the heck.
You see some of the creatures too, and how like just this huge change between simple and funny
Yeah.
looking and stuff to really, really like heavily detailed, descript, like creepy looking characters, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's but very important because it's the most successful anime movie in the United States.
I think Spirited Away, isn't that still the highest grossing film to ever be released in Japan? Is it? I think it
Yeah,
still is.
it is.
And it's
It's
been
no,
released here in theaters twice now, I believe.
it's
Yeah.
the highest grossing. No, it's the highest grossing movie in the United States that was released first in Japan.
Oh, you're right. Okay, okay.
Yes,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I mean, it's well deserved. It's a very beautiful movie. If you guys haven't watched it, don't look at it
Highly
as an
recommend.
anime. Don't look at it as an anime movie because I think, of course, the style of it is an anime, but I see more of it as a
Yeah.
movie itself because of all the all the um all the I just can't get into it. The
No,
concept of it, the
yeah.
concept of it. You go through a whole bunch of emotions. You go through a whole bunch of scenarios where you're like, wow, this could have like I understand what's going on, and it hits you in the feels, man. It hits you in the feels,
It
man.
does. It does. And I like what you said, AJ, because even today when I watch it, I don't see it as an anime movie. I see it
John.
like an actual film. There's so much going on and it
Yeah.
just looks so well drawn and well animated on its own. And it actually like it takes like a familiar trope, because this movie that Spirited Away, we've seen something similar before. A lot of people like to draw comparisons between Spirited Away and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So we've seen this trope before, but
I
just
get you
how
there.
how they do it and just how they're able to just mix it up to make it their own is just something fascinating. It's almost like Star Wars, where we've seen the trope of Star Wars many times, but just how Star Wars does it is just it makes it look fresh and it's something unbelievable. And Spirited Away did that exact same thing, and it just like if anybody was unfamiliar with anime films at the time, Spirited Away kind of like pave the way for those new people, because I've met so many other people who were not familiar with Studio Ghibli and was not familiar with Miyazaki or anything like that until Spirited Away came out. When Spirited Away came out, that was like, okay, for sure, now it's making an impact in here in the Western
Yeah.
world.
I agree with that.
And so, final question, because it's kind of weird. It's pretty short. Final question. Studio Ghibli's coming back. So, I'm excited.
That's
That's
the
it?
final question.
That's the final question.
That's
No.
a question.
No, do you think there will be other anime companies that will be like, well, since Studio Ghibli is very successful over here in the Western state area, Western countries, you think there will be anime companies that would produce movies and try to get them dubbed and bring them over here?
A lot of
Because-
them, a lot of them already do.
Yeah. There's a lot of those smaller studios out there that that a lot of people are familiar with and all that may not be as successful and as popular as Studio Ghibli, but they're always still out there. It's almost like comparing between, Disney and everything else and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? Where when it comes to animation films, people love to talk about Disney and all that stuff, here in the Western world at least, and all that. But when we think of other animation films, like, oh yeah, what else was there? Oh yeah, DreamWorks made, Shrek and Kung Fu Panda and all that stuff. What else is there? Is that it? No, there's actually many more and all that stuff. Like there were the like Nickelodeon, people tend to forget about that and all that other stuff. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so I believe there will always be more if they're not already here, but I don't think. The thing is, the reason why, it's not really on the tip of anyone's tongue right now is because it's not as, I don't want to say it's not as powerful, because I'm pretty sure there are other anime films out there that are just as powerful as, the Studio Ghibli ones. I mean, Akira and Ghost in the Shell, wow, and all that other stuff. It's like that. But I think they're just missing something that the people at Studio Ghibli kind of has, and that is basically the quantity that they have, and also who is involved and all that, and the history. Because it's almost like if we were to talk about Ghost in the Shell, oh yeah, who distributed Ghost in the Shell, what else have they done? Oh, nothing really that much memorable. But it's kind of like that. That's how people usually see it nowadays.
Yeah.
But but for me personally, I don't really think about, what has this one person or what has this one studio, like what have they released and all that other stuff. I do care about, who they are and what have they released, rather than how many other things that they have. You know what I mean? And so
I'm
yeah,
more focused on the quality than the quantity as well.
exactly, it's one of those.
Yeah, quality is definitely what makes it, and what stands out to you the most. I mean,
See,
the kind of like when you watch one of those anime films, by the end of it, I think a lot of us, we love that when we watch it. At the end, we're just there and we're like, wow, like we soak that in, We're just like we get this certain feeling, and then we're just like, okay, that kind of like, it changed a part of me inside, like it's something that you're gonna remember no matter what. And I think that's why Spirited Away is so popular, because at the end of it you're like, well, that was something that was like different than everything else I've seen. And I feel like it's like those kind of films are films that will, like, in a few years from now you're still thinking about them. In a few years from now you're still talking about them. And that's what other films I feel like don't have as much because of that. So I feel like, yes, in the future there will be other films that we're gonna sit there and we're gonna be like, yes, this was great. I love this for exactly what it is, and I don't care if the company made more films other than that one, because I appreciate that one all by itself.
And
Just
that
don't-
actually reminds me, sorry to interrupt you, AJ, that actually reminds me of another film. It's called Time of Eve. That's just like, that studio didn't really do too much or anything like that. It was a great film on its own. They didn't do sequels to it or anything like that. I really enjoyed it though. I thought it was great.
there are many other companies, like, for example, like, Studio Ghibli does a whole bunch of films, there's no doubt about it, but we can also talk about, like, Akira. which is a legendary animated movie itself, an anime movie. You also can talk about like Paprika. You know,
Paprika.
these are all different movies that are made outside of Studio Ghibli. You know, what was the one you talking about? Said earlier, Goth. The girl that jumped through the sky or something. What was
Oh,
it?
the girl that leapt through
the,
time.
the girl that
Yeah, the
left.
girl
The
that
girl
leapt through
that jumped
time.
through the sky, sure.
Oh, that was actually a really powerful one in my opinion.
Yeah.
It
That's not a
made you
studio.
think a lot. I know it's not a Studio Ghibli
It's
one,
not a
but
Studio Ghibli movie.
it
It's
was,
fine.
yeah.
Didn't have to be to
No,
be
it wasn't
good.
all by itself. It was a really strong film, and if you haven't seen it, go ahead because it's definitely worth a watch. And
um,
if you didn't know, like, just a short thing, The Girl Who Left Through Time is basically a time traveling anime film. So if you like that kind of stuff, there you go. You have
yeah,
something interesting to watch today.
and there's others as well, like Afro Samurai. How come we completely forgot about Afro Samurai?
It's was it a film? I thought it was more of a series.
It was a film. Get at him. Afro Samurai was first a movie, and then they started making episodes right afterwards. So there you go.
It was a
And
dope
then
one. So it was very dark and lots of racial humor, I guess you could say.
yeah, there's so many others. You know, just is like there's so many others, and I am hoping that it becomes more popular over here in the States. It was like I thought again. I'm huge on Studio Ghibli movies. I've seen a huge majority of them. Um, there are a couple that are coming out that I've recently saw um, that have caught my eyes. Once I remember what the names are, I will make mention of them. Um, uh, but uh, yeah. Studio Ghibli's coming back, so I want to know. I want to see what they're gonna do, especially since
Mhm.
Miyazaki's retired.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so there's no more Miyazaki movies. Um, yeah, John. And I want to see what else is going to transpire from for the animated movie genre. Any last words from any of you guys?
Well,
Um,
I personally think that anime films are great because look, Tark doesn't watch anime, but he likes anime films.
of
So I
course.
think that's also like
It also
there's
there's
something for
more.
everyone, you
Yeah, I
know?
was gonna say there's more opportunity for there being something for everybody because for a
Exactly.
series they try to build into something. A
Mhm.
movie is something you could sit down, you get
Exactly.
into the
So
story, feel like you're getting something from the story, like with Appleseed and the Appleseed movies. They're just like not letting companies and not letting technology reign over us and completely override our existence, but at the same time understanding that there's more to being a person than just being flesh and blood and just being like organic or being born a human and stuff like that. There's
yeah,
tons of movies that go along with that too, but
yeah.
Appleseed is one of the ones that does that. And knowing what defines humanity.
Yeah, so basically, like I was saying, no, it's like if you're not into anime series, anyone who's watching this right now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be into anime films. So I definitely suggest giving it a try. And with anime films, it's not something that you have to sit there and be invested into. You know, you don't have to sit there for like 10 to 100 and something episodes straight and try to like get through it, try to wrap your head around a series. You know, that may not be for you. No, anime series aren't for everyone. Sometimes it's just not someone's cup of tea. So definitely with anime films, that might be something that you could actually get into.
Hmm.
Okay, so me, I usually do the uh, AJ anime recommendations of the week. But since we were talking about anime movies, so why not? I will recommend two movies, and there's two movies that we did not touch upon that I think, hey, why not? You know, because they're movies, and I think they are ones that shouldn't be missed. The first one is Blood, the Last Vampire.
Now that I actually heard of because, me, I love horror in general, and so I always wanted to watch a horror anime that is like that looks gothic and all that.
Blood, the Last Vampire. If you guys did not know, they actually made it live action as well. It's terrible.
Oh, maybe that's the reason
Oh,
why.
I think I watched
Maybe
Blood the
that's
Last
it.
Vampire as a live action. Yeah,
It's terrible compared
nothing
to the
good
anime.
to say,
The live
but
Terrible.
action was hilarious.
the anime, yes.
It was hilarious. Okay.
Yes,
It was
is.
the
You wanna
greatest.
sit there
It
and
was the
make fun of it.
greatest comedy I have ever seen. Every time I thought about it, I just broke out into fits of laughter.
See, someone else, someone else finally joined the Street Fighter 2 animated movie bandwagon that started their whole thing for anime. Yes.
See,
And
anything could be a jump start. Mhm.
No, I mean it was so popular. So, Blood, the Last Vampire, one, and why not? Let's keep it in the vampire because we all like vampires here. Vampire Hunter D.
I have not seen that one actually.
I've
I know of it, but I didn't bother.
Oh boy.
There's actually 2 Vampire Hunter D movies. They're both pretty good, and I recommend both of them. So those are my 2 recommendations. We didn't mention them. I thought they were worth mentioning because I enjoyed both of them. If you guys follow anime, they ended up making after Blood the Last Vampire, they made a series based off of that movie, which was Blood Plus, and Blood Plus wasn't that good.
It's all on your
Okay.
opinion of how you saw it. Like, if you're trying to determine the entire show by its ending, then yeah, you're gonna be like, it wasn't that good, right? But if you're thinking of the show as a whole, then you can't straight up say, oh, the whole thing sucked.
I'm not gonna say it sucked. It's just that after watching Blood the Last Vampire, getting into the show, you already have.
I think that's where you go wrong, though, when you're trying to directly compare it all.
Because it's based off the movie.
Yes,
so.
of course, but like we've discussed earlier, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you can't directly compare the two.
And since we're talking about Street Fighter, I do not recommend Street Fighter Alpha the movie. That was terrible. Just throwing that out because people be like, Street Fighter the movie, let's go watch. Wait, is this it? Street Fighter Alpha the movie? Is this it? I'll watch it. Because it's
mistakes after another.
because Tarkin and AJ said it was pretty good. Let's go watch this one. Next thing you know, you're sitting into a dumb movie, not knowing what the hell is happening, and you're just like, why is this a movie? Why is Akuma supposedly Ryu's dad? Why?
Oh my god, I don't even want to talk about that. It's so funny.
So
yeah.
They're like,
That's
let's just add this unnecessary 18 layers of depth to this movie that really just doesn't need it.
That doesn't need it at all. So
It happens.
those are my recommendations and non-recommendations. This is actually one of our shortest podcasts that we did. Let me see. There's plenty of movies that's being mentioned right now. Ninja Scroll, Golgi 13, Castle of Cagliostro. Those are
I saw
all
Ninja.
great movies.
I saw Ninja Scroll at a young age, actually.
I did.
I saw it at a young age, and I probably shouldn't have. But I guess one of my cousins that I was living with, he was a really big, and he still kind of is a big fan of anime and all that. And he had Ninja Scroll, like the first film, on VHS, and I saw the cover, and I was like, hey, this looks cool. And then I put it in the VHS tape, and I was like, whoa, okay, hold on. But I still finished it, and I still watched it, and I was like, yeah, it was okay.
Good.
It was alright. I liked it.
Yeah.
Oh, before we sign off, guys, there's actually one that we didn't mention, and me and AJ and I think Luna as well were talking about this one.
Uh-oh.
I don't think he saw it, but me and AJ definitely did. It was when Marnie was there.
Oh,
That's the last Studio Ghibli movie.
yeah, the most recent.
That's yes, exactly. So that's something that we
And-
didn't mention, but I did very much enjoy that movie. It was sad, but it was really good.
Mhm.
It's definitely another one that made me emotional. So, hey, if you're into those kinds of anime movies, then there you go, another good one. It's definitely worth a watch, though.
Cinemax turn.
Tark, I definitely recommend you watch Time of Eve. If
Okay.
you get a
Yes.
chance, because I feel like you would thoroughly
I haven't
enjoy
seen it yet either. I have to
Okay,
watch
I
it.
might have to check that out then.
I've seen that. It's pretty good. Yes.
It's about these machines. It's interesting. I don't want to explain it because I feel like the second I give you the synopsis, it ruins like a.
No,
chunk
I'm
of
not a
what-
fan of synopsis. And I was telling Goth and
Well, if I
AJ
give
the
you
other
my
day.
interpretation of a synopsis, I feel like it gives you too much still. Like,
No,
Yeah.
don't just if you recommend it
Feel
to me,
like
I'll
going
check it out.
into it.
Yeah, if you recommend it to me, I'll check it out. Yeah. Trust me, I will.
One that I found really interesting with, I think AJ would agree with me as well, is A Letter to Momo.
Yes, that's a nice one
A
too.
Letter to Momo was definitely a very strange one in my book, but I liked it.
Somehow we managed to go almost this whole thing without mentioning My Neighbor Totoro.
Ah,
My
We
neighbor
almost
Totoro.
completely missed
I
one of
did
the
see
better
that one.
ones,
They're so cute. Oh my gosh.
right?
My Neighbor Totoro was the one where everybody was like, "Yeah, I need a furry animal of that
Yeah,
creature."
like a plush
Right?
of this.
Everyone
Yeah.
wants a plush of that after watching that.
After that, that's how it starts. And it's funny how when
Starts
talking
to go
about that
down
movie,
rabbit hole.
people call that movie Totoro now. Just that. You know what I mean? Like,
Totoro.
hey, let's watch Totoro like that. Like, oh, right, that movie.
That's just not
No,
all
it's called
named.
My Neighbor. My
I mean,
Neighbor
we can
Oh,
Totoro.
Princess
talk about a whole
Mononoke
bunch
is
of.
going to be in theaters.
Now that I'm
Yes.
gonna see. Now that if Princess
I
Mononoke
will-
is being
I
re-released in the
will-
cinemas, I'm gonna see that.
I'm totally gonna watch that, probably twice, but I love
Yeah,
that movie.
Princess.
No idea.
Yeah, Princess Mononoke is a
I have
beautiful movie.
several Mononoke like shirts or themed shirts.
I had what was it? Kiki's Delivery Service shirt. And
Yeah, I
lost
got one of those too. I love Kiki's Delivery Service.
We didn't mention that one. No,
We
yeah.
didn't mention that one.
That's a good one.
Do we mention all of them now? Huh?
No, I'm just saying.
Howl's Moving Castle? Yeah.
we gotta get as many names out there as we can. Get as many
Just a bunch of
plugs.
really good ones.
At
The
some
Wind
point in
Rises?
time, Studio Ghibli would be like, "All right, I think they named all of them. Maybe we should give them sponsorship. Maybe we
My
should
neighbor-
be like, all right, guys, here's like $10. Thank you for mentioning all our movies." And we
My
got
neighbor,
sponsored.
the Amadas.
You know, I think the last thing we need to say now, just real quick, what was everybody's first Studio Ghibli film? The first.
Grave of the Firefly.
Okay. My first was Kiki's Delivery Service.
Same here.
Yeah, actually, I watched that one first too because of Brandon.
Oh my gosh, okay. That's it. Simple as that. All right. And
So-
yeah.
He gave me all the good ones.
Mm.
He gave me a good starter. There you go.
But yeah, but anyway, to conclude and such, I really like films and stories and writing in general, and having these anime films that are just out there that cater more to just the child's eye, like the one that actually reaches out and grabs the older audiences, and basically audiences of like everybody and all that stuff. Those are the ones that last longer, and those are the ones that have like you're gonna have that deeper connection with, rather than just a simple connection of, oh yeah, that movie was good for, you know, entertainment wise and all that other stuff, you know. So I just like all these films, these anime films in general, that just happens to occur, because even though that, you know, it doesn't matter if they were based off a TV show and they weren't that good, it doesn't matter if, you know, it's another remake or something like that. It just shows that even though that a lot of people nowadays, when talking about anime, they like to talk about shows because we have a plethora of shows compared to the movies that are out there and all that other stuff, it still goes to show you how we still, us, the audiences, we still care for these anime films, and we still request them, and they're still popular. Like, well, if Princess Mononoke is being re-released supposedly, and Spirited Away was just recently re-released and all that. We're getting all these different re-releases, and we're still getting all these theatrical releases of anime films in general. And so it just goes to show you how much of an impact it's really taking, and it gives us not only, excuse me, an edge of a perspective of like a visual standpoint, but it also gives us another perspective of a narrative standpoint of, as in, it can still be on the same level, if not, more visually and narratively sound than actual feature-length films using, actors, live action and all that. And it just so happens that these anime films, a lot of people still love them, and a lot of people actually consider them more than the more recent Disney animation films that we're getting and all that stuff. I've encountered so many more people that can talk more about Spirited Away and more about My Neighbor Totoro than what is that? Peter Pan and well, Disney's Peter Pan and more than Disney's Tarzan and all that stuff. Does that mean I think they're better? No, but it just goes to show you that, well, personally me, yes, but I don't, everybody has an opinion, but it just goes to show you that how many people still have a thing for all these different films, and I don't think it's ever going to stop. It's going to be a part of us, similar to how we have that childhood memory of the first time watching, Pinocchio, or the first time watching Cinderella or something like that. It's going to give us that same feeling, and it's still going to stick with us, even though it's not a Western thing, and it's still, it still gives us like that glimpse of what's going on, and it still gives us something to hold on to. And I really, really appreciate and have a passion for that.
Gives us something to be nostalgic about.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're done for today, guys. Next week we'll be back on our original time. Am I correct?
I hope
I
so.
believe so.
Okay, we all hope so. And we will talk about Star Wars, guys. Ho 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 ho.
I thought,
And,
I thought we were doing Star Wars in January.
No.
No, it was supposed to be set for the next one.
Oh, okay.
So next week we will talk about Star Wars, just Star Wars in general. That will even include the movies, the games, the books.
Lego
guess
Star
what?
Wars, the best version and interpretation of Star Wars to ever reach mankind.
What else?
I will bring it up. I will
books.
talk about it all the time.
Oh yeah, please do.
So, guys, what time do we normally stream?
8 p.m.
Yes,
Eastern.
8
Eastern
on a
time.
Saturday.
Saturday, yes.
Saturday,
This
8
week-
PM Eastern
This
time.
week, I was the guilty guy. I was forced to go to a birthday party, which I didn't want to
Yeah.
go, but I did anyways, and I was forced to dance with the birthday girl, which I was not very enthused about. And it was just a lot of forcing. And I want to get back into the whole podcast thing.
Of
So
course.
I definitely didn't want to miss this week, and but here we are. Last week there was a certain situation with one of us that we couldn't do the podcast, so we do apologize about that. But we will try and get to our regular rotation, and we will see where it all plays out. I think we have a special guest next week. And
so.
Hopefully, if nothing
Hopefully.
happens to him.
Crossing fingers.
hopefully, and we will discuss Star Wars. So if you guys like the Star Wars talk, we will definitely be on that. We'll probably all be nerded out on Star Wars. We're gonna make Goth Angel look like a goth Princess Leia.
Okay.
No.
Gosh,
You
you
just
better
said
get
that
your
to get
stick.
to me.
I don't think that's gonna happen, but we can try.
We
No.
can try.
I wear one of
Not
my
try.
Han Solo shirts.
We cannot
I'm
try.
going to be wearing my Star Wars hoodie.
I'll wear my Stormtrooper mask.
I
Alright,
will
we'll
be
see
wearing
what's-
neither of any of those things because I'm not into Star Wars.
Alright, we'll
But
see what
it's
happens.
okay. We don't all
Star-
have to agree on things.
Okay. Since Goth won't be dressed up as Princess Leia, she at least has to introduce us with the the march, the Imperial
can-
March.
Hold on, she can dress up as Senator Leia and wear the makeup and everything.
Okay, yes. Okay, no, not even that.
Okay, but anyways, guys, one thing I would like to say before we go definitely is if you have missed any of the podcasts, like any of the past podcasts, they're on our highlights on our Twitch channel, obviously, and they're also on our YouTube, which I don't think is linked to our Twitch, unfortunately, so one of us has to get on that.
What is it not? Is there no link below?
I don't remember seeing one.
Oh. It's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. I will, however, do us the favor of generating that link and putting it in
So
right now.
someone get that link for the YouTube. So if anyone missed it, you can either watch it on YouTube or you could watch it on our past highlights on Twitch. So
We will
just
make-
remember that
okay,
in case you
and
didn't
next-
miss anything or you're
and next
new
week-
here. So
And next week we'll have Goth sing us the Imperial March.
Nope.
She's gonna blah blah
Not
blah
happening.
blah 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 blah.
never.
Blah 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 blah.
All right. So
Well, these
thank
guys
you
clearly have a high imagination.
Yep.
Let's go.
All right. So once again, we are TooGeekyToCare, and thank you guys so much for coming in tonight and watching us geek out on anime films. It's very important to, I'm pretty sure, all of us, since all of us are here. And thank you once again, and I hope to catch all of you guys again soon. So once again, I am Tark201.
Bajo Zutsu. Bam.
Goth Angel 1129.
And I am Brandon Bushido X Wolf.
All
And
right.
all of us, we stream. You guys can see our names below our frames, I guess, or on like a little below us right there in our frames.
Each person has it either below or above. Yeah.
Oh, below, above. I'm below, and so is Goth, and
Yes.
Brandon and Tark. They're above. Brandon does not stream. We're forcing him one day to do it, but
I
he's
stream.
a
I'm busy because I actually have a life and stuff. So, you know
does.
what?
He has
You know what?
what?
he has a life, and I have no life, so I apologize.
Well, for those of
Um,
us who don't have life, we do have our links for our Twitch channels personally in the description panel thing.
If you guys refresh it in the description down below everyone's names, the YouTube link should also be there.
Yes. So thank you all for stopping by. You guys can check us out on our Twitches. You guys can also check us out on our Twitters. I think we all have a Twitter except for Tark, who's a total rebel.
Social rebel.
Social rebel. But again, you can also come to us on our Twitches as well. We'd love to have you guys here, and we appreciate every support. Thank everyone. I want to thank everyone who supports us on our host and everything. You guys are awesome, and I hope that you guys come back next week and all the other weeks, and et cetera, et cetera. We're all learning how to do this podcast, so bear with us. We're gonna continue to progress, and one day we will have like more interaction with you guys through our podcast. So you guys,
We'll definitely
don't-
be trying to pull from the audience more, or like, well, I mean, we did pull a couple of statements and stuff from the audience in reference to games and series and stuff like that.
Yeah, and sometime in the future we will do like a Q&A thing. So
Yeah.
All right.
word, peace, love, and whatever you do, do not.
I'm already laughing. Oh god, this is bad.
I didn't even say anything. Why are you guys laughing? Do not discriminate on anime movies. They're not anime, okay? Of course, the style is anime, but they are definitely not the stereotypical anime. You will not see, unless it's a Dragon Ball Z movie. Or, not all movies are action-packed. Not all movies. Some of them are serious, and
Not
some
all of them are ecchi.
Yes, not all of them have boobs.
I know. I'm disappointed too.
They all have a meaning, and I think that out of all the anime topics or genres, the anime films are the most serious ones. So if you like want to see a movie and something that's serious, I throw it out there. Anime movies are a good way of watching a very, very complex, serious movie that'll capture your heart. So, thank you all. You guys have a great night, and I need another 2-liter soda.
All right. All of you guys have a great night. Thank you guys so much. And we hope to catch all of you guys again soon. Thank you so much.
Later, Gators.
All right. See you later.
All right.
Peace, meow meow.
Take care, everybody.
It's over 9,000!
All right. Anyways, goodbye, everybody.